You may have heard the term Sharia law, but you really don't know what it means, especially for people forced to live and abide by it. Our reporter Gary Lane explains exactly what it is and how it's gradually working its way into public life around the world.
What is Sharia law?
Sharia law is the legal system based on the teachings of the Quran, the Sunnah and the Hadith of Muhammad, being applied into the community as the legal basis for life.
Jeff Hammond is a Christian who has lived and worked in Indonesia, the world's most populous Muslim nation, for 35 years. He says Indonesian Christians are concerned about creeping Sharia law, now in place in half of the country's 32 provinces.
It's going from one province to another. It's not something that's happening all at once, but step by step.
For example, even Christian schoolgirls are forced to cover their heads in Padang province. Elsewhere in Indonesia, children attending public schools are required to learn the Quran. In Indonesia's Aceh province, Sharia police make nightly patrols to ensure that unmarried or non-related couples are not seen together in public.
The Christians are very concerned not only because of what's happened here in Indonesia, but they also see reports that have come in from other countries.
Islamic nations where devotion to Sharia law causes vigilantes in Somalia to behead a 25-year-old aid worker for converting from Islam to Christianity. In Iran, where women are legally stoned to death for committing adultery. In Afghanistan, where prostitutes like these two women are executed for their behavior. In Pakistan, the government apparently has accepted the imposition of Sharia law in the Taliban-controlled Swat Valley of the Northwest Frontier Province. It's a place where violators of Sharia are often subjected to lashes. Enforcement of Pakistan's blasphemy laws have led to the imprisonment of Christians like 20-year-old Sandal Bibi and her father Golshir on charges of blasphemy against the Quran. Lecturer Noni Darwish is author of the new book, Cruel and Usual Punishment, The Terrifying Global Implications of Islamic Law. She says the goal of radical Islamists is to impose Sharia law on the world, ripping Western law and liberty in two.
Oh, it's a fascinating book. It's called Cruel and Usual Punishment. Noni Darwish has written it. She's Egyptian. Fabulous. Noni, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, you point out in your book where Sharia came from. Sharia isn't necessarily part of the initial writings of Muhammad, is it?
No, Sharia was created after Muhammad died by Muslims who wanted to control the public and to keep them within Islam. If Islam is a policeman, Sharia is the gun that controls the people. According to Muslim scholars, the most prominent Muslim scholar, he compared the Islamic State, which must be run under Sharia, with a fascist or a communist state. And no Muslim authority doubted him or challenged him.
So it's not just a question of forsaking the faith. They regulate everything under Sharia. Now, tell us about it.
Sharia controls private life as much as public life. Every aspect of your life is touched by Sharia. There is no freedom of religion. According to the 4 schools of Sharia, a Muslim who leaves Islam must be killed immediately.
All right.
So there is no freedom of religion, and there is 3 murders allowed by Islamic Sharia to do vigilante justice on the streets.
What murders?
Murders like, for example, killing an apostate.
Yeah.
So if a Muslim leaves Islam, any Muslim on the street can kill him. It's allowed under Sharia, killing an adulterer. Usually it's a woman, because under Islamic law, a Muslim man can marry up to 4 wives, and he has the right to have a temporary marriage where he can have a prostitute for an hour. And so a man is, you can't have a man get arrested for adultery. It's always a woman who is violating sexual crimes. So women are especially oppressed under Sharia.
Let me ask you about, we are horrified here about sex against minor children, and yet you pointed out why the Ayatollah Khomeini has a whole writing about what they're allowed to do. What can they do?
There is no age limit for a girl to be married under Islamic Sharia law. And I'm sure many people in America and the West heard of the 8-year-old girl who was demanding a divorce in Yemen. And the Yemeni authorities refused, after she filed for divorce, to allow an age limit for young girls to be married.
Well, he allowed some kind of sex play when they're little babies, didn't he?
Absolutely. It's under the Shiite, and under Sunni, there is still no age limit. So you can marry a 1-year-old girl and actually I'm embarrassed to say, have some sort of sexual relations with that child until they reach the age of 9, and you can consummate the marriage. That is Sharia law. And for example, another thing under Sharia law, abortion was never made illegal. And another thing is adoption is illegal. So it's exactly the opposite of Western value.
Well, now, let's assume that a woman wants to leave her husband.
She can't.
Because
divorce is in the hands of only the male. And that's why when they come to the United States, many Muslim men get so frustrated, and they are demanding Sharia in the West because they hate to see their wives demand a divorce and actually file for divorce in the freedoms in the West.
What about this beating? Is a husband entitled to beat his wife?
Yes, under Islamic law, a man can beat his wife, not only beat her, but he doesn't have to say why.
He doesn't have to say why?
He doesn't have to say why, neither to her family or to the police. So a woman can be beaten in the marriage, have 3 other wives for the husband. And in chapter 2, I have the Muslim marriage contract, in which the Muslim, the bride is asked if she's a virgin. Because if she's not a virgin, she will go back to her family and they can kill her, an honor killing, because for a girl in Islam to prove rape, she has to have 4 male witnesses. So I personally knew somebody in Egypt who was killed by her family for being raped.
She was raped and yet her family killed her?
Killed her. Actually,
why?
Because she cannot come up with 4 male witnesses to prove rape.
And otherwise she's going to be
killed.
killed.
And she's not a virgin, so nobody will marry her.
They go through this ceremony where they wave a
white flag with
blood on it.
Absolutely.
Is that part of the ceremony now still?
Not in the upper classes, the educated classes, but if even the educated classes, the husband finds her not a virgin, he will send her back, take his dowry back, and the family usually will either kill her. That's the standard.
In your book, you were talking about this dowry as being, possession of the wife's private parts, that he buys that part of her. Is that the way?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The top scholars of Islam say that marriage for a woman is slavery, and the dowry is actually purchasing the woman as a pleasure, as a toy for the man.
Why do women in the United States in colleges embrace this? Do they have any idea what Islam really teaches?
No, our multiculturalism, we have reached a level of acceptance of other cultures, but only criticize our own culture, unfortunately. And so I blame also that there is nothing called Islamic feminism. There is very few Muslim women who are standing up against Sharia simply because it's against the laws of Islam. If a woman criticizes, let's say, Sharia, she's immediately called an apostate, and she must be killed. There are 2 feminists in the Middle East right now. One of them had to leave Egypt. The other one in Bahrain, she's forbidden from speaking to the media or writing. She's forbidden from writing. And that's why there is no Islamic feminism.
What about these long robes? You have something in here that really this was nothing but a return to the nomad life of Saudi Arabia. Is that
Absolutely?
That's
Absolutely.
Tell us about
Islam, bottom line, was to protect the Arabian Peninsula culture, supremacy of the male, acquiring expansion, Arab imperialism through a concept called jihad. Jihad is simply to protect the Muslim, the Arabian culture and habits of conquering the other tribe. Now it is not conquering the other tribe; it's conquering the non-Muslim world, and claiming it for Islam, and that is the problem.
George Bush made the statement that I disagreed with totally, that Islam was a religion of peace. Not true, huh?
Well, it's not true, because the concept of peace is rarely mentioned, and it was mentioned in the Quran one time. There is a surah that says that when you are superior, when you have the upper hand, do not weaken and ask for peace.